This is Premium Times Election Special. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m.
Hi, welcome to Premium Times Election Special. I'm Titi Lokwe Fadare. On this show, we bring to you all of the important issues surrounding the 2023 general elections. We're talking about analyses, unique perspectives, fact checks, explainers, everything that leads up to the general elections and after the general elections. On this particular segment, I'll be sharing with you recent top political news making the rounds in the country. First, today, we published an analysis that looked into the manifestos of the top 3 presidential hopefuls, that is, Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, Peter Obi of the Labour Party, and Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress. Now, what we looked into their manifesto is about their plans to tackle gender-based violence in Nigeria. Of the 3 top political hopefuls, only Mr. Tinubu's manifesto highlighted plans to combat the prevalence of gendered violence. He intends to expand the use of specialist police units to investigate and handle cases of domestic violence, strengthen social services and support to victims of domestic violence and abuse by encouraging whistleblowing, counseling and victims and sanctuary homes, and prioritize the prosecution of domestic abuse cases and seek more serious criminal penalties for abusers. It's also important to note that Atiku, Obi, and Tinubu, in their campaign speeches within and outside the country, made unflinching support to address violence against Nigerian women and girls. Now let's move to the next interesting political story. A statement was made by Samuel Ortom, the governor of Benue State and of the People's Democratic Party. He said he's willing to sacrifice his senatorial ambition for the Labour Party's candidate, Peter Obi, to win Nigeria's presidential election on February 25. In his words, "For me, it's not even that I'm contesting an election. Yes, the form was bought for me by the people of Benue State. I've gone round, but if I'm to sacrifice my senatorial ambition for Peter Obi to win, so shall it be." Interesting. Lastly, President Muhammadu Buhari's Minister of State of Petroleum Resources, Temipre Silva, on Monday purchased the All Progressive Congress APC expression of interest and nomination forms worth 50 million naira to contest the forthcoming Bayelsa governorship election. That's all for the recap for the top political trending stories in the country making the rounds at the moment. Up next is my colleague, Mrs. Sheyi Ayeni, who will be having a conversation on the implications of age and gender discrimination in Nigerian politics. Stay tuned.
This is Premium Times Election. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special. This is Premium Times Election. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m.
Hi, welcome to Premium Times Election Special. I'm Titi Lokwe Fadare. On this show, we bring to you all of the important issues surrounding the 2023 general elections. We're talking about analyses, unique perspectives, fact checks, explainers, everything that leads up to the general elections and after the general elections. On this particular segment, I'll be sharing with you recent top political news making the rounds in the country. First, today, we published an analysis that looked into the manifestos of the top 3 presidential hopefuls, that is, Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, Peter Obi of the Labour Party, and Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress. Now, what we looked into their manifesto is about their plans to tackle gender-based violence in Nigeria. Of the 3 top political hopefuls, only Mr. Tinubu's manifesto highlighted plans to combat the prevalence of gendered violence. He intends to expand the use of specialist police units to investigate and handle cases of domestic violence, strengthen social services and support to victims of domestic violence and abuse by encouraging whistleblowing, counseling and victims and sanctuary homes, and prioritize the prosecution of domestic abuse cases and seek more serious criminal penalties for abusers. It's also important to note that Atiku, Obi, and Tinubu, in their campaign speeches within and outside the country, made unflinching support to address violence against Nigerian women and girls. Now let's move to the next interesting political story. A statement was made by Samuel Ortom, the governor of Benue State and of the People's Democratic Party. He said he's willing to sacrifice his senatorial ambition for the Labour Party's candidate, Peter Obi, to win Nigeria's presidential election on February 25. In his words, "For me, it's not even that I'm contesting an election. Yes, the form was bought for me by the people of Benue State. I've gone round, but if I'm to sacrifice my senatorial ambition for Peter Obi to win, so shall it be." Interesting. Lastly, President Muhammad Buhari's Minister of State of Petroleum Resources, Temipre Silva, on Monday purchased the All Progressive Congress APC expression of interest and nomination forms worth 50 million naira to contest the forthcoming Bayelsa governorship election. That's all for the recap for the top political trending stories in the country making the rounds at the moment. Up next is my colleague, Mrs. Sheyi Ayeni, who will be having a conversation on the implications of age and gender discrimination in Nigerian politics. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome to Premium Times Election Special. I'm Titi Lokwe Fadare. On this show, we bring to you all of the important issues surrounding the 2023 general elections. We're talking about analyses, unique perspectives, fact checks, explainers, everything that leads up to the general elections and after the general elections. On this particular segment, I'll be sharing with you recent top political news making the rounds in the country. First, today, we published an analysis that looked into the manifestos of the top 3 presidential hopefuls, that is, Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, Peter Obi of the Labour Party, and Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress. Now, what we looked into their manifesto.
This is Premium Times Election.
Hi, welcome to Premium Times.
This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special.
And our guest in the studio today is Stephanie Adams Douglas, a gender inclusion advocate. Stephanie is also the Deputy Manager, Media Freedom, Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development. On today's episode, we will be speaking we do not have a female governor at the moment. We have 4 deputy female governors at the moment. Stephanie, would you agree with me that culture and religion, have a huge role to play in the state of participation of women and the younger generation?
In politics, same as religion. But this is something that we have been talking about for years now, about how culture continue to contribute to the involvement of women in politics. There are certain cultures that do not allow women to speak. And this is not the first time, I suppose, you're hearing it, where people get to tell women that you're supposed to be seen, you're not supposed to be heard, which literally means that women are supposed to be, quote and unquote, in the other room, as a leader in Nigeria once said. So that alone is just a blow, I would say, and a far cry that women are actually 49, I think women constitute 49% of Nigerian population. However, involvement in both politics and governance, it's a far cry. It's below the belt, And I said politics and governance because most of the time we always advocate for the participation of women in politics, and then we forget the governance part of it. And then most of the time people get to say that these things are the same. So people just interchange politics for governance, but that is not it. Because you have the policy makers. They are the ones in the background doing the policy making, right? Pushing. So as much as we advocate for the inclusion of women in politics, which is getting a ticket, going for, the whole political rallies, and vying for a particular position. But there is also another part of it, which is the governance part of it, that women do a lot around politics. I beg your pardon, around policy making, right? So I always say that when we advocate for the inclusion of women in politics, we should also do well to advocate for the inclusion of women in governance. But culture in Nigeria, and knowing full well that we have not just three major tribes or languages, as a lot of people, say it, but we have more than 300, right? And these cultures are way different. There are cultures that allow women to speak. There are cultures that allow women to lead. There are cultures that allow women to participate. But there are cultures that restrict women from speaking where a counterpart is, or maybe where the other gender is. There are cultures that do not allow women to lead. In fact, it is a taboo for a woman to lead, and that's why historically, if you look at it, you'll see that there are just few women leaders. And I'll say like in the North. So if you have to speak about in the North, and that for my own church, and it was going to be an election for, it says you do not have to be a woman. I mean, only men, right? Only men. Women are not expected to be leaders in church. So even in 2023, we continue to speak about the involvement of women in politics, but then culture and religion plays a huge factor in their participation in politics and governance.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, this conversation on inclusion will continue.
This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Time. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m.
Hi, welcome to Premium Times Election Special. I'm Titi Lokwe Fadare. On this show, we bring to you all of the issues, important issues surrounding the 2023 general elections. We're talking about analyses, unique perspectives, fact checks, explainers, everything that leads up to the general elections and after the general elections. On this particular segment, I'll be sharing with you recent top political news making the rounds in the country. First, today, we published an analysis that looked into the manifestos of the top 3 presidential hopefuls, that is, Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, Peter Obi of the Labour Party, and Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress. Now, what we looked into their manifesto is about their plans to tackle gender-based violence in Nigeria. Of the 3 top political hopefuls, only Mr. Tinubu's manifesto highlighted plans to combat the prevalence of gendered violence. He intends to expand the use of specialist police units to investigate and handle cases of domestic violence, strengthen social services and support to victims of domestic violence and abuse by encouraging whistleblowing, counseling and victims and sanctuary homes, and prioritize the prosecution of domestic abuse cases and seek more serious criminal penalties for abusers. It's also important to note that Atiku, Obi, and Tinubu, in their campaign speeches within and outside the country, made unflinching support to address violence against Nigerian women and girls. Now let's move to the next interesting political story. A statement was made by Samuel Ortom, the governor of Benue State and of the People's Democratic Party. He said he's willing to sacrifice his senatorial ambition for the Labour Party's candidate, Peter Obi, to win Nigeria's presidential election on February 25. In his words, "For me, it's not even that I'm contesting an election. Yes, the form was bought for me by the people of Benue State. I've gone round, but if I'm to sacrifice my senatorial ambition for Peter Obi to win, so shall it be." Interesting. Lastly, President Muhammad Buhari's Minister of State of Petroleum Resources, Temipre Silva, on Monday purchased the All Progressive Congress APC expression of interest and nomination forms worth 50 million naira to contest the forthcoming Bayelsa governorship election. That's all for the recap for the top political trending stories in the country making the rounds at the moment. Up next is my colleague, Mrs. Sheyi Ayeni, who will be having a conversation on the implications of age and gender discrimination in Nigerian politics. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome to Premium Times Election Special. I'm Titi Lokwe Fadare. On this show, we bring to you all of the issues, important issues surrounding the
This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Premium Times Election Special, and we have been speaking with Stephanie Adams Douglas, a gender inclusion advocate. So we've talked about the impact of culture and religion on the participation of women and the younger generation in Nigeria's political space. In Nigeria, when you talk about politics, one thing that comes to your mind among a host of others is violence. It's like politics and violence, they go side by side. Do you think that this, let me talk about the physical violence at right now. Do you think that this is another major factor why women just draw back? They don't put their all in, maybe because they are, they are not certain about the space and they don't want to get hurt, women, and think about the children and everything. So do you think this is one of the reasons why women do not put their all
into politics?
I mean, I wouldn't say that women are not certain about the political structure in Nigeria because, of course, women are certain about the political structure in Nigeria. I mean, the world itself is just hostile to the female gender, right? When it comes to leadership, be it position of power, governance, politics, you just find that the world itself is just hostile to the female gender, and I'll say that when it comes to violence, it's not just, and yes, I agree with you when you talk about the physical violence, but it's not just in Nigeria, right? Okay. It's neither is it just in West Africa, that women face a lot of violence, right? When it comes to politics and governance. Yeah. However, in Nigeria, it is just a different structure entirely. Maybe because of how we have changed the dynamics of politics in Nigeria. That's why you get to hear people saying politics is a dirty game. Mm-hmm. And in Nigeria, it is indeed, to an extent, quote and unquote, a dirty game. We have seen in the past where women have been taken down. We have seen where a woman was burnt. I know that's gross to say, but we just have to say it. We cannot continue to, just sugarcoat or use beautiful words. A women leader, was actually set ablaze for supporting or actually, working in the whole political space. So that is how hostile the space is to women participating in politics. So yes, there is this fear of violence. There is this fear of, the safety of an individual as a woman and also the safety of her family. Because we all know that women are, they're natural nurturers, So there is just this instinct around, wanting to be safe. And, in as much as women try their possible best to, fight the system, fight the political structure, no matter how hostile it is, there is always a force against women. Yeah. So I'll say that, yes, the physical violence plays a huge factor in the involvement or the participation of women in politics. However, women are still trying their possible best to fight the structure. Yeah.
Now, away from physical violence, we have other types of, I will still say violence. But there's this there's the emotional abuse that exists. There's a verbal abuse of women. Like sometimes you watch the plenary of the Senate, and then you see how the women are bullied. It's not all women that can, accept or receive that kind of. Those women, they're really strong. You see how they bully them, and some words that are said to them by their male counterparts. That you can't even repeat it. And then, so do you think that these are some of the things that hold women back? And then we also have the issue of finance. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's a huge one because we know how expensive it is to run for a position in Nigeria. Is it the financial aspect of even getting the form? Is it how to campaign and everything? And we know that not many women have access to these funds. Yeah. So how do you think this has impacted on the participation of women?
First of all, I'll say, yes, women get bullied, even in, places. I'll say we have seen so many situations. We have seen scenarios where women were literally hit, physically hit, or even, just bullied by calling them names. Okay. And, in Nigeria these days, once a woman goes into politics or any, position or vie for any position of power, the next thing that you get to hear Nigerians refer to her is she's a street person. She is, for using the word, she's a prostitute. She is this, she is that. She's not a family type of woman. That is the kind of bullying that they bully with. So it's not just the physical part of it. And I'm not saying that the physical part of it is not important, or rather for us to speak about it. And I'm not undermining the fact that, yes, the physical part, the emotional part of it is more than the physical part of it, or the physical part of it is more than. I'm not saying one is better than one. Yeah. But yes, women go through that emotional violence. That stigmatization is there. That abuse is there, where you get to call them names alone just because they are representing, or they want to represent their own people, right? It is absolutely ridiculous. We have seen it. Once you Google right now, you see how a lot of people, have been referring to women. You see how they will just tell you, oh no, this woman, she not be wife material because she did politics, or you get to hear people say, oh, this one, she not go fit keep husband now, and all of that. It is how much the culture and religion has built, so this is a buildup of culture and religion. So we are always using that whole factor of culture. Okay. We're using that whole factor of religion to say that, oh no, a woman is not supposed to be speaking. A woman is not meant to stand where a man is standing. Or when a man is sitting, a woman should be on the floor, Yeah. It's just a way of diminishing the female gender itself, and it's terrible. I think for me, it is one of the problems that we need to address, the cultural aspect of it and the religious part of it. Earlier on, I did mention how some religious bodies do not allow women to lead. Some cultures do not allow women to lead. They'll tell you that, no, you're a woman, you're not supposed to lead. They'll tell you, oh no, even the Bible says the man is the head of the home. It is not in any way, and I'm not bringing the religious part of it here, but it is not in any way a competition. It is a democracy. Certainly. If women in Nigeria play, or rather occupy 49%, then why don't we feel the impact of women in a democratic nation? Why do we allow culture? Why do we allow religion to, stifle the rights of women? I said earlier that in some churches, some Orthodox churches, they don't let women, to occupy position of leadership. In ECWA, I am an ECWA member. But they do not allow women to hold position of leadership. Oh. So you don't have female elders. You don't have female pastors. You don't have female. So it simply says, as a woman, if I really want to confide in another woman who is in the position of power in the church, there is nobody to talk to, except if I go through other means, So this is how tradition, culture, and religion continues to play a huge role and a huge factor in the involvement of youth specifically, or rather women specifically, in election. And I know you also asked about, how women just want to hold back. Yes, I won't say women are holding back, irrespective of the hostile nature of, our country and the hostile nature of governance and politics. Women are not holding back. You will still find a woman, vying for a position. In as much as currently we do not have enough women, vying for positions, but you will still find one woman. So we're not holding back. We're trying our possible best to challenge the stereotype. Women are trying their possible best to see that there is a change. There is a different narrative when it comes to politics in Nigeria, because honestly, everybody believes that women should not be in any position of maybe power or any political space in Nigeria, because it is occupied mostly by men. And that is why some of the policies that we have do not favor women, because when you have only 21%, or rather 21 women in the National Assembly out of 469, how on earth are you going to ensure that the policies are passed? Because that is the percentage is just too much. And you have people who do not understand who do not understand women represent women. So they're representing women out of hearsay and out of maybe, whatever it is that they read. But we need people who understand, who experience everything that women experience to be able to speak about the policies and also, get those policies to be passed and even implemented.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. We'll be going on a short break, and we'll be back shortly. Please stay tuned. Thank you.
This is Premium Times Election Special. 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 This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday at 4 to 5 p.m. This is Premium Times Election Special, live on our Facebook and YouTube platforms, Monday to Friday.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Premium Times Election Special, and we have been speaking with Stephanie Adams Douglas, a gender inclusion advocate. We have been speaking on the impact of culture and religion on the role women play in Nigeria's political space. We have also spoken about the impact of violence and if this affects the participation of women in Nigeria's political space. Another interesting point is the fact that, would you say this is still about culture? Why do women, not support women in politics? In fact, they seem to be, they don't even want to see them there. If you go on social media and you maybe a governorship candidate has a female deputy governor, you will see how this one has failed already. Why did he use that? Why? So, I mean, how would you explain this?
I'll be surprised if you didn't ask this question, because this is a question that we have, I think, we have it's more like a fixed question. It's more like a rigid question. Each time there is an interview around the involvement of women in Nigerian political space. But permit me to say that women support women. Okay. Yes, women support women. That narrative or that notion that women do not support women is an intentional narrative so that we continue to fight against each other. It's a continuous narrative to ensure that, I think it's just psychology, so people just get to believe that, women don't support women, so I wouldn't go to a woman also. But women support women, be it in politics, be it in the workplace, leadership positions, wherever it is, I would say women support women. The major reason I would say is, earlier we talked about financial constraints for the participation of women in politics. But we have seen where in Nigeria, it's more like an investment when a godfather, supports a godson, in politics. Okay. So we have a lot of people, a lot of men, wealthy men, businessmen who are supporting their godsons in politics. What we do not have is we do not have women in those positions. We do not have women who support, or invest, because it's an investment, whether we like it or not. It's an investment when a godfather supports a particular, and it happens every day. We all know that, this person brought this person or that person brought this person. And that is also a major, conversation in the 2023 elections, because everybody is supporting a particular person because this particular person actually played a role in the campaign process or in their lives at some point. So it's a time to pay back. That's why I'm using the word investment. Okay. So yes, for women, we do not have, and I'm not saying that we do not have wealthy women, we do not have billionaires and all of that. Okay. But we just need to adjust. We just need to strategize more in how godmothers should also support goddaughters, also invest into their political careers. Okay. And at the same time, not just investment in money, but investment in capacity building, because of course you won't have to go into politics or governance without knowing what you're getting yourself involved with here. So it simply means that you have to know the dynamics. And I'm not saying the bad dynamics, but you have to know what it takes, to be there. You have to know how to do your job as well, because in as much as we are fighting for the inclusion of women in governance. We're not saying that any woman we'll just put any woman there. No, we want to have women with capacity and capabilities. Okay. So if you do not meet up to that, we will still advocate that woman should be taken out. Okay. So we're not just saying, yes, let's put any woman there, because that is exactly what the male counterparts are vying on right now. You just get to see that, oh, let's just put one woman here so that these women will not come and be disturbing us. You know how it is. Exactly. And then you just find one small position, and just you give it to a woman, and all of that. So yes, we need to support each other more. We support each other, but we need to support each other more. And we have to be strategic. I think that is one way that the male counterparts are getting it more than us, because they are very much strategic. We are strategic as well, but we need to be more strategic when it comes to financial support in the political space.
Okay. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Now let's talk about age discrimination in Nigeria's political space. Like if you just take a look at the National Assembly and just look at the age range there. We have people who have governed states for like 8 years and they have just turned that place to like their retirement homes. Like once they just finish, in government, they just like, that's where they'll just be until maybe they're called to glory or things like that. So how do you think a young person who just graduated from school, who just has like 5 years experience, would have the financial, wherewithal to compete, contest against someone like this, contest with someone who, who has managed the state for like 8 years? Are we talking about the experience? Are we talking about the financial capabilities and things like that? So do you see any hope in sight for the younger generation?
Absolutely. I see hope, not just hope, because I bet you that there are a lot of young people who are into politics and governance right now. The only thing is they are working in the background, right? Okay. But yes, there are lots of young people, and there is hope for, a transition when it comes to age. However, when this is a very I would say controversial topic, because you're asking me about age at a time where we have people who are in their 80s that are running for the highest seat in the nation, but age is a huge factor, but experience is also another factor, right? So we won't say that, yes, you have to compete with people who have been, I think this is just like different questions in one, so you won't say that you have to compete with people who have been there for a very long time. Of course, if the need be, you have to compete with them, but you have to also know, you have to be aware, and that was why I talked about capacity building, right? So you have to be aware of what you're doing, you have to know how to go about it, and I am also an advocate of maybe we get to restructure some of our acts, our roles, our regulations and policies. You're right that governors will at the most, spend 8 years, but another retirement home would be the Senate. We have senators who have been there for 20 years. We have senators who have been there since democracy. Exactly. And you begin to wonder if that is actually a monarchy or a democratic, a democracy, because they are still there. Recently, I saw a tweet about somebody who has been in the Senate for 20 years, and is still, running again. So it simply means that there is this form of comfort for them. But another thing is, you have to be able to challenge them. You have to be able to challenge them, because if you leave these people, they're going to be there for 25 years, for 30 years. So you have to be able to come ready to challenge these people so you can at least beat them out of that position. So yes, I'll say that for women to get involved and for women to, get to that position that they're seeking for, it is important for them to understand the dynamics of politics. It is important for them to know how politics works, what they need to bring to the table, because it's not always about just having a woman there. What do you bring to the table as a woman? What are the policies you would like to change? What are the economic issues you would like to challenge? So yes, age plays a role, but again, so long you come with a bag of capacity and capabilities, I don't think you have to challenge anybody and not win.
Okay. Thank you so much. We have been, since this whole gender discrimination thing, have been going on for a while. We have, these agencies who speak on these things and try to create awareness. But do you think they have been having much impact, with the way things still are at the moment? Do you think they've been having much impact? Can you also speak on the number of women who are still vying for positions in this forthcoming elections?
When we started the conversation around gender policy, right, by the Nigerian Trust Fund, it was led by the Nigerian Trust Fund and so many other civil society organizations, in 2016, if I am not mistaken. And when that whole conversation started, that wasn't the first time, trust me. Of course, there's been discussion around gender inclusion, over the years. And of course, there's been impact, because if there hasn't been any impact, then we wouldn't be here speaking about this particular topic, right? There has been great impact. We have seen where women have come out in their turns, to vie for positions. We have seen where young ladies, come out to vie for positions. When the Not Too Young to Run was passed, we saw a lot of a huge number of young people and also women participate in the elections, right? And even right now, there are still women, even though the number continues to depreciate, but we still have women who are coming out to vie for, positions of leadership positions or, seats in politics. So what I'm trying to say is that, yes, we're making impact, no matter how little. We are making impact. If you look at the projection, it simply says for us to be able to achieve gender equality, it will take us another 100 years. Wow. And I will not be here. You will not be here. But the major thing is that we have been able to make an impact. We have been able to leave a footprint. I mean, when the whole conversation started around the Beijing Declaration, we were not here. But, we have been able to meet up to what other women started. And that's what we are still doing. We will not be here in the next 100 years, but we're trying our possible best, contributing our little quota to see how much impact we are going to make.
Thank you so much. Will you say that the number of women who are vying for positions in this forthcoming elections, would you say that the number is encouraging? Would you say that there have been an improvement in the number of women compared to previous elections?
There's been a drastic reduction. There's been a drastic decrease in the participation of women in politics compared to the previous elections, compared to 2015, compared to 2019. In fact, in 2019, it was the most beautiful elections. For me, and don't take me out of context, I mean most beautiful election when it comes to gender participation, because there was a lot of, we had women, we had young women in their 30s come out, to talk about, I like to run for this position, the member House of Representative, Senate and all of that. In 2023, out of the 1,100 positions, I'm talking about Senate, there are only 94 women, if I'm not mistaken. There are only 94 women, and that's in 2023. It wasn't like that in 2019. In 2019, we had I don't want to quote a number so that I don't get fact checked, but in 2019, I am certain that it was more than 94. So there is a decrease in the 2023 elections. And when you ask, what are the factors? Why the decrease? It will still go back to culture, religion, financial constraints, and then the hostile environment itself, which has to do with bullying, which has to do with physical or cyber bullying, because that's what a lot of people do now. So as a woman, you can't go on air, right, and speak about your ambition to run for presidency, and you don't get to see people of the opposite gender call them names. I mean, it happened to Funke Akindele when Funke Akindele came out, running with Jandor as his deputy in Lagos State. There was just a lot of name calling, they called her so many names. I remember that one of a governor's brother had to come out and apologize for calling her a certain, So it's crazy how these things go on a daily basis. But yeah, I totally agree with you that the number of participation for women has absolutely reduced in 2023. And, at some point I was looking at the manifestos for all the presidential candidates, not all actually, but, the 5 major presidential candidates, and none of them actually talked about women in depth. None of them actually talked about, the participation of women, how they were going to do this, going to do that, and all of that. I think the only person would be Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu of APC. And to be fair, if you look at, the Presidential Council for APC, I'll say that he does have quite a number of women, around him. But then let's wait to see, because in Nigeria we're very good at writing beautiful policies, beautiful acts, beautiful manifestos, but when it's time for implementation, we always see 1 or 2 issues. So yeah, I totally agree that there's been a drastic decrease for 2023 compared to 2019.
Thank you so much. We'll be wrapping up this program, but how do you think these challenges can be addressed? I know there are things we've talked about over and over again, but we have to keep saying it. So how do you think this particular problem of discrimination, how do you think it can be addressed?
First off, I think this is exactly what we are doing at the moment, right? This is exactly what needs to be done, to talk about it, right? And it's not just to talk about it on TV, it's not just to talk about it in specific at specific events. But we need to take this conversation everywhere. We need to take this conversation to secondary schools. We need to take these conversations to tertiary institutions, because you need to catch them young. You need to let them know from a very young age that, look, politics is not just for men. When I was growing up, I thought politics was just for men, right? So we need to be able to talk about this. We need to be able to catch people young. We need to be able to at least, show them the right way to do things, not the way the entire political system has been turned in Nigeria, but the right way to do things. We need to also know and understand that there is a difference between political science and politics itself, especially in Nigeria, So first of all, capacity building for people, right? Everybody needs to know, both young people in tertiary institutions, they need to know how to get involved, because a lot of people too just need some form of direction, just somebody to hold their hands and say, okay, look, I'm going to, teach you or show you the way how to do things the right way. Aside that, you also need that financial support.
Exactly.
So we need to strategize more for women. If it means us having a trust fund for women in politics, that will be an important part of this conversation. It will absolutely make an impact, because it's investment. Like I said earlier, men are investing in younger men, for positions of power in politics and governance. So for women, if we strategize more, come together, maybe have, a trust fund where women can access to run for politics or positions of power, it will be a great one. Also, we need to get to talk to cultural and religious leaders. These people need to know, they need to understand, they need to also get their voices. And that's why I honestly, I respect Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, and Sanusi Lamido has actually, endorsed women here, So if we have religious leaders, if we have cultural leaders speak about the involvement or the inclusion of women in politics and in governance, it will absolutely go a long way, because most of the time, what we need is that backing from our cultural leaders, from our, our religious leaders, right? We need the backing. And at the same time, knowledge. Knowledge is key. Knowledge is power. We've had a lot of women come and go because the system has been hostile. Or, some way they've been entangled into corruption cases and all of that. But and I'm not tying this particular point to knowledge, but I'm trying to say that every woman who will participate in politics or governance should have knowledge, should actually go through the process, know what you're bringing to the table, know what you have to change the policies, address the issues, make impact. So yes, I would say getting our religious and cultural leaders involved. I'll say financial capacity, and maybe having a trust fund where women can access money for elections, and at the same time, capacity building for others, because everybody, we're not just, you can't be a lonely tree. You need somebody to pull you and direct you. Yeah.
Okay. As a gender inclusion advocate, what is your vision for the future as regards women and politics in Nigeria?
A country where we do not have to request for additional seats in the Senate because we want women to be there. I want a country where women with capacity and capability get their own seats, but not special seats in, the Senate or the National Assembly. I want a Nigeria where women get to get their positions, without having to say, you must give us that 35% affirmative. Because to me, I feel that 35% of affirmative that we've been talking about, it's like we're begging them. Please just give us this at 5. No, we want a nation where a woman is there not because she's a woman, but because she has the capacity and capabilities to rule. That is the future. That is the future that I want for Nigeria. I want a future, or rather a Nigeria where women get to speak, get to make decisions, get to implement policies, get to do, everything that the male gender is doing. And it's not a competition, but we want equal opportunities, because according to the Universal Human Rights, all humans are equal. So why will a male gender, occupy all the positions of power and the female gender cannot? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining us today on today's program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is where we wrap up for today's program for Premium Times Election Special. Join us again tomorrow at 4 p.m. I am Uluwaseyi Ayeni. Good evening.
Good evening.